Back on the weird wiki page, run an inspect element on the navigation. There's a hidden h1 tag inside of the wiki header and wiki nav elements. Let's try to find this and print out its text. To do that, use the find function. Pass it CSS as the first argument and then your selector. .wikiheader, .wikinav, h1. Surprise! This is actually the fourth and final important object in Mink. You start with the page, but as soon as you find a single element, you now have a node element. What's cool is that this object has all the same methods as the page, plus a bunch of extra that apply to individual elements only. Let's just dump the header arrow get text and rerun the Mink file. Now it prints Jurassic Park Wiki Navigation, so finding by CSS is working. Let's do something harder and see if we can find the wiki activity link in the header by drilling down into the DOM 2 times. First, find the parent element by using its subnav-2 class. So I'll use page arrow find css, .subnav-2. And don't forget that dot. Now, var dump this element's HTML to make sure we've got the right one. Run mink.php. Awesome. It prints out all the stuff inside of that element, including the wiki activity link that we're after. To find that, we need to find the li and a tags that are inside of subnav-2. We could just do that by modifying the original selector, but instead, once you have an individual element, you can use find again to look inside of it. So we can say nav arrow find and use CSS to go further inside of it with li space a. The find method returns the first matching element. Dump this element's text and check things. Yes, it returns a wiki activity. Okay, in addition to CSS, there's one more important way to find things using Mink. It's called the named selector. I'm going to paste in some code here. Please do not write this. It's ugly, 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 and I'll show you a better way. Instead of passing CSS to find, this passes named along with an array that says we're looking for a link whose text is wiki activity. The named selector is all about finding an element by its visible text. To see if this is working, let's var dump link l arrow get attribute href. That should come back as the URL to the activity section. Try it out. Yep, it works. The named selector is hugely important because it lets us find elements by their natural text instead of technical CSS classes. In this case, we're using the text of the anchor tag, but the named selector also looks for matches on the title attribute, on the alt attribute of an image inside of a link, and several other things. It finds elements by using anything that a user or a screen reader thinks of as the text of an element. And instead of using this big ugly block of code, you'll use the name selector via page arrow find link. Pass it wiki activity. This should work just like before. The name selector can find 3 different types of elements: links, fields, and buttons. To find a field, use page arrow find field. This works by finding a label that matches the word description and then finds the field associated to that label. To find a button, use page arrow find button. Oh, and the name selector is fuzzy, so it'll match just part of the text on a button, field, or link. Okay, let's finally click this link. Once you have a node element, just use the click method. Run the script. You can see it pause as it clicks the link and waits for the next page to load. And then it lands on the special : wiki activity URL. When you have a single element, there are a lot of things you can do with it, and each is a simple method call. We've got focus, blur, drag to, mouse over, check, uncheck, double click, and pretty much everything you can imagine doing on an element. Head back up to the Goot driver part. That was important object number 1. The driver is used to figure out how a request is made. The Goot driver uses curl. If we wanted to use Selenium instead, we only needed to change the driver to driver equals new Selenium 2 driver. That's it. Oh, and make sure you have a session arrow start at the top. I should have had this before, but Goot doesn't require it. Similarly, at the bottom, add session arrow stop. That closes the browser. In a terminal, I still have the Selenium jar file running in the background. Run php space mink.php. The browser opens and just kind of hangs there. Check out the terminal. It died. Status code is not available from Selenium 2 driver. The cause is the session arrow get status code line. Different drivers have different superpowers. The Selenium 2 driver can process JavaScript, a pretty sweet superpower. But it also has its own weakness, like Kryptonite, and the ability to get the current status code. The driver you'll use depends on what functionality you need, which is why Mink made it so easy to switch from one driver to another. Remove the get status code line and rerun the script. Other than this annoying Firefox error I started getting today, it works fine. The browser closes and we're now dangerous with Mink. Let's put this together with Behat.